New cooling measures are in effect, but will they dampen demand for property in Singapore? 20,000 gig economy workers stand to benefit from a workplace health initiative. And we speak to former Formula One driver Alex Yoong about the big race on Sunday. It's Friday, September 30th, and you're watching The Big Story with me, Chao Suen. Subscribe to the Straits Times channel to stay up to date with our live news updates. But first, this just in from the Ministry of Health. Over the past few days, it has observed a 35 to 40% week-on-week increase in COVID-19 daily cases. This translates to 900 to 1,000 more cases every day. A couple of reasons for the spike. One, the proportion of reinfections has increased from the beginning of September. And two, there is an increase in infections by the OMICRON variant BA.2.75, which accounts for about a quarter of all daily infections. MOH says it expects to see higher numbers of cases over the next few weeks and will continue to monitor the situation closely. Now, if you were planning to buy a home soon, you might have woken up to a bit of a shock this morning. The government announcing very late last night that a new round of property cooling measures would take effect immediately. For buyers, the maximum loan amount limits for housing loans will be tightened, meaning they can borrow less than before. For instance, the loan-to-value or LTV limits for HDB housing loans will be lowered from 85 to 80%. This comes as more million-dollar HDB flats have changed hands in the first 9 months of this year than the whole of 2021. For private property owners, they will now have to wait 15 months after selling their property before they can buy a non-subsidized HDB resale flat. Authorities say the new rules are meant to moderate demand and ensure that resale flats remain affordable for flat buyers, especially for first-timers. Joining us now is Senior Vice President of Research and Analytics at Orange Tea and Thai, Christine San. Thanks for joining us today, Christine. So the measures seem to be fairly significant. Did they come as a surprise to you, and why are they coming into play now?
I think that the cooling measures didn't really come as a surprise. In fact, many people were expecting cooling measures to come, mainly because HDB resale prices have been rising over the past 2 years, and especially over the past few months, prices were increasing much faster than expected, and we are hearing record prices happening in many different estates. And in fact, we are also seeing more million-dollar flats, and over the past 1 month, almost every other day, there were 1 or 2 of such transactions. So perhaps it is time to tame the HDB resale market exuberance slightly, and as well as to slow down the pace of price growth. And for the changes for the TDSR, it's also something that's within expectation, mainly because the TDSR is using a 3.5% benchmark for the calculation. So with that, because right now interest rates are already rising across the board, and we know that for fixed interest rates, many of them have already touched 3%. And for even floating floating interest rate is also aging towards this 3%. So it's just a matter of time. Maybe by the end of the year, they may reach 3.5%. So it is necessary for them to relook into the computation of the TDSR.
So this is not the first time we've had cooling measures. Do these new measures then mean that the previous rounds of cooling measures have not been as effective as we'd hoped?
I think that is a very different issue here, because it does not mean that the cooling measures were not effective, because for the last round of cooling measures that was done in December 2021, the measures were more targeted at the private resale market, the private market, whereas for the HDB resale market, it was largely untouched. So because of that, we can see that even after the last round of cooling measures that were implemented, HDB resale market continued to run in terms of prices, in terms of demand. So this is the reason why now we are having a fresh slew of cooling measures aimed more towards the HDB resale market.
So you say specifically aimed more towards the HDB market. So what will the impact of these new measures be then, and who will be hit the hardest? Sounds to me like it might be the HDB buyers.
Yeah, I think that mainly the biggest impact will come from the changes in terms of the MSR, because that will affect people's affordability. And the other one that will affect will be the 15-month waiting period. So this will impact those private homeowners who wish to buy a HDB resale flat. So some of these people, they could be cash rich because they might have sold their private properties, like for example, their condominiums, landed properties, or even they could be en bloc owners. So these people will be looking at the HDB resale market because they probably will want to downgrade. So if we look at the HDB data, if we let's say for example for Q3, you'll notice that prices of homes or HDB resale flats are still rising, and it is mainly driven by the bigger flats, like for example the 5-room flats and executive flats. And we suspect that many of these units are actually bought by these private homeowners who have the cash to pay for these high prices. And that's the reason why we're also hearing more transactions above 800,000, 900,000, and even hitting 1 million to about, right now, the record is 1.42 million. So so because of that, there could be a reason why that right now we need to perhaps tame down this group of demand from this group of buyers, so that the younger Singaporeans will then have a chance to buy these kind of HDB resale flats.
Thank you so much, Christine. This has been Senior Vice President of Research and Analytics at Orange Tea and Thai, Christine San. Also in the news, households will see a drop in their energy bills for the first time since April last year, after SP Group announced lower electricity tariffs for the fourth quarter from October to December. On average, there will be a 1.4% decline in the tariff compared with the previous quarter. This is due to falling energy costs. Now, as more Singaporeans turn to gig work, one question that arises is whether their safety net, including medical needs, is robust enough. Now, the Health Promotion Board is stepping up preventive efforts to get them fit and healthy. Under the program, gig workers with partner companies like Grab will get free health screenings and coaching, mental wellness workshops, as well as physical activity classes. They can then be equipped with knowledge and skills to take better charge of their own physical and mental well-being. HPB aims to bring the workplace health programs to 20,000 gig workers and other self-employed persons by 2024. Senior Minister of State for Health, Dr. Janil Puthucheary, explains why the initiative is necessary.
These workers, firstly, 70% of them are above the age of 40. So they're in that right age range where we want to have these interventions. Secondly, the work that they do is largely sedentary. They are sitting still for most of the day driving, and so they have to take a little bit of extra effort to have some physical activity. And thirdly, the structure of their work is very irregular. They have on different hours and different work patterns, and so you need a way to, in a way, cut through that and give them the opportunity to have these interventions, and that's why we have to work like partners, like the platform operators.
Thai Prime Minister PRAYUT Chan-o-cha will remain in his post as the country's top court ruled that he has not exceeded the 8-year term limit. This comes after the opposition argued that Mr. PRAYUT had exceeded the tenure limit stipulated by the 2017 constitution. Mr. PRAYUT, who became Prime Minister in August 2014 after staging a coup, had been suspended from premier duties since August 24. And from tomorrow, travellers to South Korea will no longer need to take a PCR test within the first 24 hours of their arrival. The removal of this requirement means that all border controls for visitors to the country have been lifted. This is such great news for anyone planning a trip to South Korea soon. In just moments, the Formula One Singapore Grand Prix weekend is about to kick off, with drivers participating in the first practice session. But it is not only the fans that are basking in the atmosphere. The nightlife industry is also banking on the race to be the catalyst that revives the industry. This year's race is expected to see the largest attendance since 2008, when there were over 300,000 spectators. The local business community also benefits, with over 90% of the race organisation being subcontracted to Singapore-based companies, with over 30,000 staff benefiting from this arrangement. Considered to be one of the more challenging tracks on the F1 calendar, the race is back after being left out for 2 years due to the pandemic. And all eyes will be on Red Bull Racing's Max Verstappen, who will be looking to clinch his second World Championship title and secure the earliest end to a title battle since 2002. Ferrari's Charles Leclerc, who is already 116 points behind Verstappen, will be doing all that he can to keep his championship hopes alive. And here to tell us more on what to expect from this weekend's race is former Formula One driver Alex Yoong. Thanks for joining us today, Alex. So the Singapore Grand Prix is finally back for the first time since the pandemic, and the F1 drivers themselves seem pretty excited to be back on this circuit. What is it about this race that makes it stand out from the others?
Oh, absolutely. I think everyone's excited to be back. It's genuinely one of the top races on the calendar. The night race, it was the first night race we ever had in Formula One. The atmosphere as well. As an event, Singapore throws an event like no other country really. And in my view, it's probably the best Grand Prix on the calendar. Also, it's a tough track. It's one of the toughest races. As far as street tracks go, it's pretty tricky to drive. Not much room to rest on. And you add to that the heat. Even though it's at nighttime, the walls of the street tracks, they kind of lock the heat into the track. So it's really tough on the drivers. They get pretty close to the 2-hour mark. And it's one of those races the drivers know when they come here that they're going to suffer. And they're just going to push through the pain.
So despite all these possible challenges, I think all eyes will be on Red Bull's Max Verstappen, who could secure his second World Championship if the results go his way this weekend. So what do you make of his dominance this year?
Well deserved. I mean, Red Bull and Verstappen didn't even start with the fastest car this year. Okay, yes, now you could argue, especially on race pace, maybe they're the quickest. But, at the beginning of the year, the Ferrari was the better car for sure. And they've just curated a really good year, Didn't panic, got the results still early on, even when they had a couple reliability issues, they still got the results later on. And now they're on a big run. Verstappen's driving with such dominance right now, such confidence. The car is good as well. Having said that, though, this will be a slightly different track for them. We've seen Ferrari take pole at Baku and Monaco, which also street tracks earlier this year. So, I think Ferrari's going to be very quick. They're really going to challenge him, especially in Leclerc's hands. But, even if Ferrari get pole position, you still got to win the race. And even though most Singapore Grand Prix race winners have won from pole position, it'll still be tough.
So talk about Verstappen aside, Alex. You mentioned that the Singapore track is quite different from a lot of the other tracks. Now, I'm going to have to put you on the spot here. Who do you think will win the Singapore Grand Prix? Or do you think there are any expected surprises or anything that might be out of the ordinary?
Verstappen has to be a favorite, just the way they're operating. Red Bull and himself just operating at such a high level. But, Leclerc will want to bounce back. Ferrari have had a bad run of races as well. And I think this is going to be the track that they do it. I think the advantage of starting on pole will be a bit too much. And Leclerc and the Ferrari should be able to hold on.
Thank you, Alex. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. I'm sure we're all very excited for this weekend. It's been former Formula One driver Alex Yoong. The Formula One fever has clearly raging. I hope you've gotten your tickets, but if you haven't, not to worry. There are plenty of places around the circuit to catch a glimpse of your favorite cars and drivers. From bars and restaurants like Rooftop Bar Smoke and Mirrors and Microbrewery Level 33, to public places like the Marina Square Roof Garden and the link bridge between Millennia Walk and Marina Square. But be warned, thundery showers are expected on rain day, so bring along your raincoats and umbrellas. And speaking of Formula One, before we go, here's wishing Max Verstappen a very happy 25th birthday today. Good luck on Sunday. I'm Chao Suen. Thank you for watching The Big Story and have a great weekend ahead.